Welcome back to Webb's Offroad. Today I thought about doing something a little different. I've been asked a bunch of times to do a tutorial on my clamps, my double shear hydro assist clamps. So today, that's what we're doing. Okay, so these are OD clamps from AJK Offroad. Aaron is really good to work with. We are going to do a production run of 2-inch clamps today. So my double shear hydro assist clamps, I offer 3 different offsets. I don't know if I'm going to build all 3 of them, but I'm going to build one and take you through the steps. And really just show you what it takes to actually build a double shear hydro assist clamp. Okay, so first thing that I do is actually disassemble them. These are grade 5 Allen heads. I only use these to weld them out, just to plug the threads and not get dingleberries in them. And then I have bins of each one, tops and lowers, so I don't mix them up. Lowers, uppers get machined. So I'm gonna get doing this, and I will get back to you. Okay, so we've got them all disassembled and split out, so I wanted to kind of point out a little bit. So the bottom half is just a through bolt, and then the top half is the actual threaded side. So I like to mill a flat on the threaded sides so I can get my tabs as low as possible for the most leverage on your tie rod. So now let's go over to the mill and get these going. So this is a Precision Matthews knee mill. It's nothing fancy dancy. It's considered a hobbyist knee mill, but it doesn't take a lot of fancy equipment to do what you need to do. Okay, so going back to this flat. Gotta get an auto feed so bad. Okay, so now I've got the flat done. I got 19 more to go. So I'm gonna do those off camera and then we'll get back to you. Okay, so now that we got all of our 1-inch flats all done and inventory all milled out, we can put this stuff in the shelf, get it out of the way, and get to the next step. Okay, so for these clamps, I offer 3 different offsets. So the 0 offset, the 0.5 offset, and then the 1.5 offset. And that just means like the 0 offset and 1.5 offset work really good with your hydro assist ram mounted on the track bar, and then the clamp goes in the middle of the tie rod. The 1/2-inch offset and the 1.5-inch offset work when you flip the ram and mount it off the diff cover out to the knuckle. So for today's clamp, we are going to build a 0 offset one. So now I just need to ream these holes and get these tabs ready to go. So you guys have seen me use reamers before. These tabs are laser cut, and then I shrink this hole just a little bit so I can get a reamer and ream it to the actual final size of the bolts that I get. So now that we reamed them, I like to just take and chamfer the edges. Nothing too crazy. Oh, and there we go. So it took me a long time to figure out kind of the sequence to do these. I remember the first one that I welded up was my first actual off-road shop that I did these for was Bubba at Exodus 4x4. And I remember I didn't do this step, which this is just high temp anti-seize, but I didn't do this step. And I welded it up, and I didn't take the bolts out right away. I was like, oh, I'll take the bolts out when it cools down in the morning and then finish up the clamp. And the bolts actually seized into, and I had to call him and tell him what happened, and I had to order a new clamp, and it became definitely a fiasco to try and get one clamp done for him. So this is just high temp anti-seize, and then I use the throwaway bolts that you guys saw me before, just to basically weld the tabs onto and not damage the threads. So this is just a bolt that I cut down. I reamed out some thick spacers, washers. I machined a spacer. So now I have the correct spacing, tab, bolt. And there, ready for weld. So now that the tabs are all prepped, I've got the spacer in, everything's ready to go. Now let's fire up the welder and weld it up. Here goes the hair. So when welding these, I like to tack the corners. And then weld the inside first. Hold our breath, don't get any of this smoke. Hot, enough to make love. I got my clamp all welded up. Now it's gonna get loud. I think we'll just do a time lapse and show you how I do the valley and everything else. We're gonna turn on the compressor, which I have an old school compressor. It's super loud. You guys won't be able to hear me anyways. Now that the die grinding part is done, now is the rough part. So now is the hand filing part. So, filing time. Alright, so it's not that bad to do these after the die grinding. So here I'm just focusing on getting a nice transition from the bottom to the side. Ta-da! So now we can go to the next step, which is the 4 corners. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Not bad. Okay. Yes, I do cheat. I don't file it all the time. Now more filing. Oh yeah. Now I got my 4 corners all done, everything else. Now I like to clean up the outside of it. I use a really worn out disc for this. It's not really too complicated. It's just grinding flat. Okay, so now outside is done. Now I take my flat file. It's going to get squeaky really loud, so. Just like that. Wherever you want me to hold it. Ooh, that fucker's warm. Okay, so now that we have all 4 corners and the edges and everything all cleaned up, now I'm going to DA everything and then chamfer the edges. With the edges, I use the rough file. Just go over it, nothing too crazy. All I'm doing is matching the other chamfers. Nothing too crazy. Now I go over with the fine file. So it's not super rough. This part is mainly just for feel. I don't have to do it because customers usually paint or powder coat this. So either it's going to get sandblasted or it's just going to get rattle canned. But when a customer grabs this out of the box and feels it, I would like it nice and smooth. So now that feels really good. So now, since I welded it, I did have bolts in these threads, but we're going to clean them up and run a tap through them, just in case. These are 1/4-28 threads. They're not quarter 20. They are 1/4-28. So you can always put more torque on a fine thread versus a coarse thread. Even though this is running down really nice, it's not cutting any threads. These threads feel really good. Every single clamp I do this. Every time I order a set of bolts, I calibrate the bolts, and then I match that bolt to the reamers that I have. I have a handful of 5/8 that are custom reamers that are a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller to match the bolts that I get. This one was just a little bit bigger, so we're gonna open this up just a little bit. Now we grab a bolt, spacers, which, let's talk about these spacers. So these are a 303 stainless spacer, and then what I do is have them ceramic coated, so they are out in the weather all the time and they keep their nice machined look. It's super nice. I think this clamp is a PSE clamp. I have different, so I have PSE's clamp, or Heim, and then I have Redneck Ram's Heim. So I test fit each clamp to whatever the customer is getting. So we test fit it. Here's the $1 million click. Oh yeah. Okay, so I've had people message me and ask me how come I spend so much time on the Valley grinding and filing and everything else. It's not only just a visual aspect of the part, but it allows for movement of this Heim. Like, that is nice. It's a visual look part, but then it also physically moves, like works how it's supposed to. So that's why I spend so much time on the Valley and make it a nice part. Now all that's left is just cut down the bolt. But not too bad. I get the shank of the bolt to go through both tabs. So instead of running one tab has a shank and then one tab has threads. I get the shank of the bolt to go through both tabs, and then I cut down the excess of the threads. So all I'm going to do is just clean up my edge. I go to my disc sander. I have a fixture that I use. Super easy. So now the bolt's all cut down, nice and clean, chamfer, 90 degrees, super nice. Right now, since I cut the bolt down and ground it flat and then chamfered it, now I just run it in the nut. I run it all the way down, cleans up the threads, makes it nice. I can feel it lock. This is a Stouffer nut, so it doesn't go all the way through, but enough by hand. So now is final assembly. So I grab 2 washers. Ooh, that bolt is hot. Boom. Here we go. Grab the bottom plate. So now on the bottom, I use these 12 points. They are military grade 9 12 point. So they are super strong. They're nice. Yes, you have to get a socket for it, a specific 12 point socket, but when you can actually torque it good and it doesn't back out or shear off or break, you will thank me. Okay, so now just final assembly, just for shipping purposes. All I do is just slight just to where the impact stops. I don't really try to tighten it too much. Don't need it to be, just to stay in place. And there we go. One clamp, start to finish. So what sets Webb's Offroad's double shear hydro assist clamps apart from other brands is I do raised knurling on the inside, plus I keep the tabs as low as possible, so when that ram is pushing, there's no leverage. It doesn't try to, it just pushes with the flow of the ram. Thank you guys for following along with me as I build another one of my double shear hydro assist clamps. If you guys like this product and want to see more product, check me out at www.the4x4garage.squared.site. Don't forget to like and subscribe as more videos like this are coming out weekly.